And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony.
You are now watching And They Overcame. My name is Edward Brian McNeal Sr. I'm from Tampa, Florida. I come from a family of 5 biological children and 4 stepchildren. It was 9 boys and 1 girl. And as in my childhood, I come from a home where my mother was a registered nurse. So therefore, we were not poor. I didn't have to suffer a lot of the hardships other people did, and my father was in the home. He was a superintendent of the city of Tampa. He was the first black man to hold the position that he held. He was the 3rd from the top. He only had 2 people over him. One was the mayor, and the other was his boss, Mr. Townsend. So we pretty much had a pretty stable childhood, and we had mostly everything that we would ask for. But there still was favoritism in my home. My younger brother, he always got everything he wanted, as well as my sister. Her being the only girl, she was very spoiled. So it just goes to show that even when you come from an environment where you're not poor, you still may suffer and have favoritism in your home. Okay, as a teenager, I grew up, pretty stable. We had a lot of things that other people didn't have. If my little brother asked for a new car, which he did, my parents went out and they bought him a new car. But me, of course, they wouldn't do that, because at the time I had a child out of wedlock. And so I joined the military. I went to the Army, and I did my years in the Army. Then I came home, and I pretty much did what normal people do. Once they come home from the Army, I got a job, I started working, and I started to try to make it in life on my own, which it was harder than I thought. And I started to really endure a lot of hardships. But once I did finally start getting on my feet, once I got older, I experienced the fact that I was having things that other people still didn't have. I had cars, I had motorcycles, and it led me to have a motorcycle accident on my motorcycle. Because I was driving it recklessly one day, and I was speeding. And I was driving at an excessive rate of speed, and a child came from behind a van on a bicycle, and I was heading in that direction, so I had to hit both brakes, and it threw me over the handlebars. The motorcycle came down on top of me. Me nor the motorcycle hit the child, and he was right in front of us. We both flew right over the top of him. He didn't get a scratch on him. The motorcycle pinned me up under it, and it slid me into a brick pole, face first. I broke 3 bones in my jaw over here, and 2 bones over here. My bottom jaw was turned over here. Upon going to the hospital, they told me I also had a broken pelvis. It was crushed. So I couldn't walk. I had the trapezoid above my bed to be able to move up or scoot up on the bed. And they thought I was bleeding in the brain, so they couldn't do surgery immediately to wire my mouth shut. I was in the hospital for several days because they thought they were going to have to drill holes into my head to release the pressure from my brain if I was bleeding in my brain. But through the grace of God, I was not bleeding in the brain. And they were able to wire my mouth shut. My mouth was shut for 4.5 months. I had to drink through a straw. But God delivered me. And upon that, after that, I had to learn how to walk all over again. And I had to learn how to eat again. I had to learn how to do everything again. And God delivered me from it all. Well, concerning marriage, I would give advice to everyone concerning marriage. Keep God your center of your marriage. Always focus on the Lord first. Never put your spouse before the Lord. Keep God first in your life, always, because I've been married before. I'm on my third marriage now. My first marriage did not work because God was not the center of our marriage. He blessed us with 2 beautiful daughters, but that marriage did not work because she felt we were unequally yoked because we did not come from the same faith. But I feel that if we would have kept God first in our marriage, it would have worked, but we didn't. So it had no way to work because God was not even in the marriage. The second marriage, it failed the same way. She did not want to go to church. She did not want to have God a part of our marriage. She did not want to do anything godly. Everything she wanted to do was worldly. But I'm not trying to find fault in her. I'm just pointing out the facts that other couples should not follow. Because if you keep God first in your marriage, He will bless it to where you and your wife will compromise with each other no matter what. And you will get along through all circumstances. And you will be able to overcome everything and every obstacle that Satan places before you. So now I'm on my third marriage. Me and my wife, we keep God first. We both study Seventh-day Adventist religion. We both believe in the promises that Jesus Christ died for our sins. And we study together, and we do everything that we're supposed to do godly, in a godly fashion. And I would give that advice to more married couples, because me and my wife, we went through counseling before we got married. We had dated for 3 years. We didn't just rush into it. And we went through counseling with the preacher. He counseled us for several months before we got married. And then we finally got married. And to this day, we've been married 9 going on 10 years. And everything is not always as good as it seems to be, but as long as you keep God first, you will overcome, just as we have. And God has strengthened our relationship to the point where all we can see now is the Lord. And then we focus on each other. When it comes to country living, I first heard the message when me and my wife, Sharnette, went to a camp meeting. We heard Brother Jeremiah preach the message about country living. And upon hearing that message, I told my wife I wanted to move to the country and establish an outpost, her and I, and start doing the work for God, a medical missionary. And my wife said we need to pray about it and take it to the Lord in prayer, and if it's God's will, it will happen. So at that point, I thought she was having second thoughts because she's a city girl and she really don't like country stuff. She don't like the bugs. She don't like certain things that are in the country. But upon hearing that message, she also had changed her heart, and she wants now to be in the country. So we started looking at property in the country. We went and checked out a few acres. And if it's God's will, we're praying that He blesses us to be in the country within the next few months. The advice I can give to other people in the younger generation is, as long as you keep God first in your life, He will deliver you through all obstacles and anything that you have to go through. Just as He did me, because at my lowest point, I went to prison. I went to prison, and I knew it was for a crime I had not committed. Upon me being in prison, I had no one to turn to but the Lord. They placed me in a little 4x4 cell. They call it the box. I was in the box for most of my time in prison. I was not in population with the other inmates. I was in the box. My only friend was the Lord. My only roommate was the Lord. I had no one to talk to but God. I took everything to the Lord in prayer. I read the Bible daily. God delivered me from prison. He delivered me from all of the things of this world that I was doing. I used to drink alcohol all the time. Upon waking up, I had to drink a beer. I had to smoke marijuana every day. God delivered me from that. God delivers you. If you truly believe and trust in the Lord with all your heart, and you lean not upon your own understanding, He will deliver you, and He will give you the power to overcome. You just have to have faith. You have now watched, and they overcame.